him on my screen. Good afternoon to you, sir. Brigadier Mark Phillips, retired from the Guyana Defense Force. So first, I always start off by saying thank you for your service. And let's have a chat now about what's going on in your country, sir. It is the 23rd of July. It is over 130 days since your general election of March the 2nd. Your party has been asserting that it has won the poll. We have seen several reports coming in from the chief elections officer, and we've not had a declaration from the Guyana Elections Commission as yet, because the results of this election have been in court, Court of Appeal, CCJ, another case back to the High Court, back to the Court of Appeal. This second case looks like it may go back to the CCJ. Sir, just give me, in your opinion, an assessment of what exactly is going on. Like, what's the current situation right now in Guyana?
Thank you, Janika. Quickly, if I could update you, on Monday, the High Court in Guyana, where the Chief Justice presides, the High Court had ruled that the elections in Guyana must be declared using the results of the recount. Since that ruling on Monday, we have the matter before the Court of Appeal. In other words, the litigants are appealing the Chief Justice's decision. Yesterday, we had the case management for the matter to be heard before the Court of Appeal, and that hearing will be on Saturday. And hopefully, by mid next week, we should have a decision coming from the Court of Appeal on that last case. So as it is now, we have to await the decision of the Court of Appeal before we can have a declaration of the election results in Guyana.
Right. Could you just repeat what day you're expecting that Court of Appeal decision to come in?
Well, the hearing will be on Saturday,
okay.
And by my estimation, even though the Court of Appeal did not announce a date for the decision, if the hearing is Saturday, and I know the court tends to work, expeditiously on these matters, I would assume by mid next week, by Wednesday, we should have a decision from the court.
Okay. But I mean,
either Wednesday or before Wednesday.
Mr. Phillips, I appreciate your optimism. But we have been here before, and when I say here before, meaning, when the Caribbean Court of Justice ruled on the case that had come before it, the case that Eslin David filed. The CARICOM and international community really thought that, all right, this was it. That after the CCJ decision, GCOM would do what, it needed to do, and then there would be a declaration that would have followed, quite quickly after that. But we have seen, instead of that anticipation, we have seen yet another court case be filed. So why do you have confidence that this may be the last legal maneuver that supporters of APNU-AFC coalition will employ?
I agree fully with you. I myself was optimistic, and I expected that after the CCJ ruling, we would have had a decision. And lo and behold, while the Guyana Elections Commission had started their meetings towards the declaring the elections, lo and behold, we had another court case filed. This one, Messenger Jones. Mm-hmm. This case went to the High Court. It was ruled, as I mentioned, on by the Chief Justice, and now it is before the Court of Appeal. And I wouldn't be surprised that after the Court of Appeal ruling, which I mentioned is likely to be sometime next week, it will end up before the CCJ again.
Right.
But what is important to note is that the APNU-AFC, that is the party in government, they are now abusing the court system in Guyana. They are abusing the judiciary in the sense that they keep making applications before the court, one after the other, with the intention of stalling the declaration of the election's results. This is the third such application before the court that went right up to the CCJ, and this third one is likely to go up to the CCJ too. However, what is interesting is that not the Chief Justice in the High Court only, but on a previous matter, both the Court of Appeal and the CCJ already ruled that the results of the recount must be utilized to declare the winners of these elections. So it's a case of the courts being abused to obstruct the natural progress towards a declaration that once it's done based on the results of the recount will clearly show the PPPC, that is my party, the People's Progressive Party Civic, winning the elections.
So how does this, I mean, the entire international community is now alerted, is now looking at Guyana. There have been increasingly strong sentiments that are the signals being sent to the authorities in Guyana that this process has to come to an end and that the recount results are the only ones that will be accepted as valid by the international community. It does not look like the government of the day is going to accept that. In fact, I understand that President Granger, in contrast with what he said in April, is now saying that he will not accept the recount results. At the OAS meeting, your foreign affairs minister sat with your attorney general and really undermined or attempted to undermine the veracity, the integrity of the recount. So if that has come into question, how does the country then proceed? I'm trying to give the APNU-AFC coalition as much of the benefit of the doubt as I can. So I understand that your party, the PPPC, does not believe that these court cases are in good faith, right? You said that they are abusing the court system and trying to stall. But let us set aside intention and say that they have every right to explore their legal options when it comes to this case. But if they are digging in, where do you see this going? This looks like an ongoing political stalemate. How do you come to a resolution in this matter?
Well, you know, perhaps you need to ask that question to the APNU-AFC representative when you invite them to your program, because what we are seeing...
We're trying, sir. We are trying.
You try, keep trying. Keep trying. You may be successful in having them on your program because they went several times on a similar program in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? But what we're seeing is a political organization that won the elections in 2015. You know, there were popular elections in 2015. They had more votes than us. They formed the government. And from 2015 to now, they've become unpopular in the eyes of the electorate in Guyana, and the electorate in Guyana voted them out of office. They voted for the PPPC in the majority, and therefore the PPPC must be allowed to form the government if democracy is to prevail in Guyana. We have a situation where on Tuesday at the OAS Permanent Council meeting, a meeting presided over by the Secretary General of the OAS, Mr. Almagro, every representative of the countries of the OAS were loud and clear during their presentations that the recount results must be utilized to determine the winner of the elections in Guyana, and it must be done in the shortest time. These are countries of our hemisphere that are telling us that they need a declaration from Guyana on the results of the election in Guyana, like yesterday. These are countries who are urging us to understand that we have signed on to a charter that promotes democracy throughout our hemisphere. These are countries that are telling us that we are part of the leadership of the Lima Group that sought to express concerns over the situation in Venezuela and speak out for democracy in Venezuela. And today, we are in default, and therefore they have a right to tell us that we are in default, and we must put our house in order. However, what we have a situation where not only the CARICOM, not only the OAS, but we have the Commonwealth Group of Nations, and we even had the Secretary General of the United Nations, along with the European Union leadership, asking, pleading with Guyana and the government in Guyana, the government formed by the APNU-AFC, to accept the results of the recount and to step aside and allow a peaceful transition to a government led by Dr. Irfan Ali, the presidential candidate of the PPPC. So the entire world is expressing concern with the political situation in Guyana. The entire world is speaking to the leadership of the APNU-AFC and its president, the incumbent President David Granger, to accept that they have lost the elections and to allow the formation of the new government. But you know what they keep holding on to? They said, oh, we still have to have a declaration. They cannot concede until we have a declaration. And they refer to that as stage 4 of a 4-stage process. So we still have to await the declaration. They went to the OAS, the minister, and said, criticize the OAS, criticize all the countries, saying that, look, their behavior is premature in the sense that there's not been a declaration in Guyana. But in the same breath, this is the government that is obstructing the process towards a declaration by having, you know, the case in court. As soon as you finish one case, there's another case. And it goes right up to the CCJ, and then they come again and they go start over with the hope that the case go up to the CCJ again. I don't know why they're doing this.
Well,
why they're pleading.
Let's talk about the cases.
We are heading for, let me finish. We are heading for a constitutional crisis in Guyana because the most recent statement by the APNU-AFC government is that they are not going to accept the recount results. That's the statement as of yesterday.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. So what then? What then? Well, if this is the position that APNU-AFC is taking, what then?
Well, I can tell you, we still have another stage to go through, the declaration of the results. So they can make any statement they want to make now, right? They already commit themselves to a 4-stage process, and we still have to have the declaration of the results. So let us await the declaration of the results, which will be done in keeping with the recount, okay? And after the declaration, let us see what they will do. Because the entire world has already spoken to this government. And if they want to remain as a recalcitrant, organization and to remain in government, even after declaration says that they would have lost the election and they should concede, it means that here we are into what I refer to as a constitutional crisis with a dictatorship, right? In the same breath, this government is calling on all the other political parties, to dialogue, to let us have some talk so peace can remain in Guyana. Here is a government that lost the election. Here is a government that should concede and demit office. The entire world is telling you to do that, and they're saying that they want talks with the other parties. But the position of my party, the PPPC, is that we are not engaging in any talks until the finality of the democratic process, which is the declaration of the election. After we have the declaration of the election and President Irfan Ali is sworn in and we form a new government, then we can sit and talk about any constitutional reform. That is our position. That has been a manifesto position, and we have an obligation to adhere to what is in our manifesto.
So what I can tell you is that every time I have done a piece on development in Guyana, every time I have had interviews with people talking about the situation in Guyana, after the program, I get a lot of messages. I get calls from people who identify themselves as Afro-Guyanese, people who identify themselves as APNU-AFC supporters, and they express to me great anxiety about what is to become of them, basically, in the event of a PPPC victory. Now, I asked this question to some of your colleagues. I believe I spoke to Mr. Hughes and Mr. Dattadin, and I asked them, how can the PPPC message to Afro-Guyanese, to APNU-AFC supporters, that this is not going to be the traditional racial politics that Guyana has had, and that a PPPC government would not freeze out a certain sector of the population based on their political affiliations or even based on their ethnic background. Is there anything that you think the PPPC could say to ease or allay those anxieties, or do you think they are just baked into the political makeup of the country?
Look, the PPPC in its manifesto and during the campaign, we've made it clear that we, on winning the elections, we will be forming a government that will govern for all Guyanese. It doesn't matter what race you are or whether you are a supporter of the APNU-AFC. We want to form a government and we want to embrace all Guyanese in the development approach to Guyana. Because, many of the Guyanese are living outside of Guyana. And the more we can embrace Guyanese living in Guyana, regardless of race or political affiliation, and also embrace Guyanese in the diaspora to come home, to contribute towards the development of Guyana. That will help to make Guyana a better place to live, especially at a time when we have discovered petroleum and we likely to have increased revenue from the petroleum, resources. We want to ensure that that money is properly spent to have development for all Guyanese. And we will not discriminate. If you look at the candidates for the PPPC, it's a list of candidates that represent Guyana. Of course, traditionally, the support of the PPP would have been predominantly Indian Guyanese, and by the same token, the support for the APNU and the nucleus party of the APNU is the PNC, has been traditionally African Guyanese. Okay, the issue is that we had governments in the past led by the PPPC and governments led by the PNC. And you will hear the criticisms that whenever the government was the PNC, which is predominantly African Guyanese, the Indian Guyanese were excluded or discriminated against. And you hear the same thing about when the government was the PPPC, African Guyanese were excluded or discriminated against. We have in our manifesto 2020, and we went to the people and we told the people in no uncertain terms that we will be forming a government for all of the people of Guyana, regardless of race and regardless of whether your political affiliation, because we recognize that the only way Guyana could develop and move forward is by us promoting our multi-ethnicity, by us promoting social and ethnic cohesion in everything that we do in Guyana. And that's the reason why I'm on board in politics, because I believe in that. And I'm an African Guyanese who is in the leadership of the PPPC. And you already know the PPPC, you know, they have a lot of support from the Indian Guyanese community. But I'm comfortable being here. And if you look at the APNU-AFC, you can see, even though that they are predominantly African Guyanese, they have Indian Guyanese in their leadership makeup too, among their candidates. So in effect, both parties, I can say both parties, as we go forward in the 21st century, have committed themselves to multi-ethnic, multiracial politics and social and ethnic cohesion, both parties. So there's no fear for the supporters of the APNU-AFC to fear a PPPC government, because we already mentioned in our manifesto and we mentioned on the campaign trail, and I wish to take this opportunity to commit that we will be a government for all the people of Guyana.
So finally from me today, I just want to speak about you and your role in I don't even know what to call it, impending PPPC government, potential PPPC government. But talk to me about your role as Prime Minister. So St. Lucia is still part of the Commonwealth, right? So we have a Prime Minister who is well, no, I'm trying to differentiate between a republic, a republic and our system. So the Prime Minister is the head of the executive branch, and our Governor General is the head of state, but it is a ceremonial role. However, in Guyana, what I understand is that the presidential candidate is the head of government. So talk to me about the prime ministerial role and how you see yourself inhabiting that role should you, make up the next government of Guyana. How are you going to operate in the government of Guyana?
Well, the president is the head of state and the head of government, the executive in Guyana.
Sure.
The prime minister is like what you will call a deputy prime minister in your country. Okay. Right? The deputy to the president. The prime minister, in addition to being prime minister, is likely to be also responsible for some ministry in the government. I have a strong defense and security background. I expect to be doing a lot of work in the area of defense and security as it relates to Guyana, because, it's not just a case of fighting crime and public security and safety, but we have borders with 3 countries, so the issue of defense is important for us. And not all our borders are friendly borders. So we have to have a defensive posture. Okay? So I see myself playing a role in defense and security in addition to being the Prime Minister of Guyana. And also because of how our House of Assembly operates, I will be the leader of government business in the House of Assembly.
In the House. Okay, understood. Brigadier Phillips, I am so sorry that we are out of time for this segment. I think that we need to have you back very quickly to continue our discussion of what is going on in Guyana. So I'm hoping that after the Court of Appeal ruling, you will have some time in your schedule to join us again. This was a very brief but very fascinating discussion, and I think we have some more things to explore. So I want you to please, if you would like to leave me and my viewership with a closing message from you, from the party, and just let us know what's on your mind.
Well, thank you again, and I will make myself available at short notice to be with you in the near future as the situation unfolds in Guyana. And I'm aware that in St. Lucia there's a sizable Guyanese population.
Very much so.
Quite in Guyana. And the same appeal I make to Guyanese in Guyana, the same appeal I'm going to make to the Guyanese in St. Lucia. Just be calm, right? Because the PPP Civic is on the right side of the law, right? We believe in the lawful conclusion of this process because we respect the rule of law. We believe that this process will be concluded, with the will of the Guyanese people being respected also. And we believe that democracy must prevail in Guyana. We are not interested in any authoritarian or dictatorial government, and the APNU-AFC will have to demit office once the declaration is made. So just be calm, just be patient, and allow the process, to take its course, its natural conclusion. And by that, I mean we have a declaration as soon as possible. We have a declaration, and the PPPC be allowed to form the next government of Guyana in a peaceful transition from the present government to our government. So be with us and be calm.
Thank you so much. Calming words were peaceful words from Brigadier Mark Phillips. He is the prime ministerial candidate for the PPPC in Guyana. Hope to have you back very soon. Thank you very much, sir.